What's going on guys, Juicy Reviews here, and in this video we're going to be looking at the fourth album by AJR, The Click. And it's kind of official, this is the worst album I've ever heard. I mean, I don't even know where to start with this thing. This thing has no integrity, it has no soul, had no charm. This has the worst singing, the worst writing, the worst production of really anything I've ever heard ever, and there's really only two songs on here that don't make me want to kill myself. The first of which is the track The Good Part, and despite its name, it's not that great, but it's better than some of these other tracks on here. The marching drums and the classical instrumentation are really what make the song bearable for me. The singing on this track sounds more like screeches, and there's this weird countdown at the beginning in a really high-pitched tone. Yeah, honestly, this whole thing is pretty grating to the ear, and despite the instrumentation being pretty high quality, the vocal side of things kind of makes me feel like the trio just didn't really look at the mixing of this album. The other track, which is slightly bearable, is Weak, but even that is slightly boring and bland. This song has a very millennial, generic pop sound to it. Even though it tries to be something bigger than it is, you just have this stale piano and vibrating synths that really just don't do anything. I mean, there's even a changing key on this song, but it literally doesn't change anything in terms of how the overall track paces out. The only thing it makes me want to do is just fall asleep. There's another reviewer on YouTube called Spectrum Pulse, and I'm pretty sure he dubbed this album as the worst album of the 2010s, and honestly that is an extremely valid take, and I pretty much agree. Like seriously, the lyrics on this thing are so immature that it could make a band like Simple Plan roll their eyes. This whole thing reeks of a Jon Bellion knockoff album. Not only does it sound like it, but also the album artwork and the name of the tracks. On Netflix trip, AJR uses the popular American series The Office as a metaphor for parts of the singers' lives. Also, not to mention, on this track they straight up steal the whole melody from Jon Bellion's 2014 track Human. Not to mention, this isn't the only time they've ripped off Jon Bellion. This album's intro, Overture, which realistically should have been the album's outro, straight up steals Jon Bellion's Hands of God. But yeah, Overture sounds like it's going to be decent for like 30 seconds, but then it just turns awful. It has a decent start but an awful finish. I'm Not Famous sounds like something 21 Pilots would make, which is really about the trio not being famous despite them already having a song in the top 100 charts, and also this album alone later on going into the top album 100. And the thing is, despite the fact I'm not a big fan of 21 Pilots, I just know for a fact that they would do a song like this way better. Alongside this, there are further moments on this album where the band are ripping off something else or just being generally awful people. There's a section on No Grass Today which straight up rips off the outro of Love Incredible by Camila Cabello and Cashmere Cat. On I'm Not Famous, they say that they don't have any haters because they're not famous, despite the fact that you technically don't need to be famous to have haters. This is a pretty ironic song because now the band have a lot of haters, mostly because of their music being so atrocious. But yeah, this album is a mixture of different genres. It's pretty hard to find a decent line on this thing. The lyrics are generally just pretentious as hell. This album features some of the worst vocal performances I've ever come across and some of the cheesiest lyrics as well. What makes these lyrics even worse is that these guys genuinely think they're making some deep and meaningful work here. But yeah, honestly, this album is a complete mess and it really makes me want to break something. On pure annoyance factor alone, I'm going to give this album a 1 out of 10. This is by far one of the worst albums of the 2010s, and this is also the worst album that I've reviewed on my channel so far. I did almost give this a 2 out of 10 because it's so bad that it's kind of funny, but I had to give it a 1 out of 10 just for musical merit. But yeah, there's my review of AJR's The Click. Let me know what you thought of this video in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you can see more of my content, and I'll see you in the next one.